Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, I am going to be talking about the Shaddoll trap deck that I made, and more so my experience with the casual local that I went to, and what I did with this deck. So I'm going to quickly do the card by card, and then I will do the explanation of the event and how it went. First of all, I do want to say that the casual event is, there's no tier 1 decks or top tier strategies or anything like that. A lot of cards are banned, like access code and stuff like that. And this was the second deck that I wanted to play, but I'll show it off anyway. My other one was banned, and, well, it was a branded Dark Lord deck, and if you guys want to see the deck list, I'll show you. But, yeah, let me just do the quick card by card. So, starting off with 3 Squamata. This card's crazy. If you don't know, Shaddolls like having their cards sent to the graveyard. And this sends cards to the graveyard. It's pretty simple, and it just allows you to just continually get more and more effect activations. So, yeah, very, very solid card. Next, we have... This is my only 3 of monster, actually, because I am playing a trap version of this deck. So, because of that, we're only running 3 of this guy. Moving on, we are playing 2 Wendy. Now, this could be easily bumped up to 3. This card special summons on flip as well as on send, which is very, very good. Special summons in face-down defense position, absolutely crazy. But all in all, the reason I only run 2 is because sometimes it's a brick. You kind of just set it if you end up drawing it in your hand, and most of the time I don't want to see too many Shaddolls, and I'd rather have some other Shaddolls as well. So all in all, very good. You could definitely bump it up to 3, but not too necessary. Moving on, we are playing 2 Shaddoll Hedgehogs. This card is really good. On flip summon, you search out a spell or trap. And then on send, you search out a monster. So, very, very solid card. I'm only running 2, again, because it is kind of a brick. You don't want it all the time. It's just mostly like you don't want a whole bunch of Shaddoll monsters. We're playing 2 Beast. It draws you cards. However, it is level 5, which means that it is really difficult to actually summon. So, this is the one where it has the best effect, and we would run 3 if it wasn't level 5. So it's just kind of difficult to summon, and I ended up losing a game because I drew both of these and another high-level monster that didn't do anything. So, yeah. However, with that being said, you definitely want at least 2 of these, just because the draw effects is so good. I'm also playing 2 Aerial. This format is currently all about the graveyard, and on send, Aerial will banish cards from the graveyard. So, all in all, a very, very solid card, and that's why I play it at 2. It doesn't really have a great flip effect, though, which is a problem. Moving on, we are playing 1 Shaddoll Falco. This card's kind of good. It brings itself back, which is nice. But most of the time it didn't really come up that I wanted too many of this card. So I just cut it down to 1. It is still nice to have because if it is flip summoned, you can special summon back one of your Shaddoll monsters that are in the graveyard, which includes the fusions, which is really, really good. But all in all, not the greatest. You only need it at 1 because you can search it out off of Hedgehog or a myriad of, or just like drawing it. And so it's really not that necessary. So that is all of the Shaddoll monsters. So let's move on to the other monsters, which are mostly targets for... they're either good normal summons or targets for the fusions. So I'm running 2 Mathematician. This guy could also be played at 3. The reason I'm only playing 2 is because I'm playing another normal summon in this deck in Armageddon Knight. So these are basically my 3 normal summons. Again, I don't want too many monsters as well, since I'm playing more spells and traps. And all in all, I didn't see that I needed more than these normal summons. Yeah, Armageddonite just sends a dark to the graveyard. Mathematician sends a level 4 or lower. But importantly, Mathematician, the reason we're playing 2 of this guy, well, besides Armageddonite being limited, is the fact that it is Earth attribute. So the fact that it's an Earth attribute means that we can go into Shekinaga, which is very, very nice. All in all, it's a nice normal summon. It does get your combos started, but it's nothing too insane. So yeah, we're just running the 2 of those and then the 1 Armageddon just to kind of get the combo started. For our light targets, I should be running things like a Ghost Ogre or Effect Veiler, but they are currently in my other deck, and I didn't want to sleeve them up, so I actually just ended up playing Perform Age Trick Clown. This card's really good. It special summons itself back by paying 1,000 when it's sent to the graveyard. So if you activate a Shaddoll Fusion, send this guy, and then you can bring him out and potentially go into some Link monsters, or just, you know, have an extra body on the field. I'm also playing a level 4 Xyz, which I'll showcase in the extra deck part. And this guy comes up a lot with being able to special summon him. So yeah, there you go. As light targets, very, very solid. We are also playing 2 Lava Golem. This card is very good. His attribute matters less. It is more so just a kaiju for a deck that doesn't need a normal summon. You deal with 2 of your opponent's monsters in the best way possible by tributing them, and yeah, that's basically it. Also, Construct does deal with this card because you do special summon it. So all in all, just an incredible card. Also, it's technically a fire target, which did come up a couple of times where I did need at least something to fusion off with, and having the target in the extra deck, as well as more importantly having the fire attribute, is pretty nice. So all in all, very nice there. And then I have 1 card that is not budget, but I ended up pulling. This is definitely not necessary, but it's also incredibly good, and I would say run 3 if you have this card, but it is Lord of the Heavenly Prisons. Let me see if I can. Yeah, there you go. This card is absolutely crazy. You reveal it at any time, just reveal it, and then set spells and traps cannot be destroyed by card effect. Absolutely crazy card. If a set spell or trap is activated, you can special summon this guy, and then he sets a spell or trap from the deck. And then, however, that card or the spell or trap that you set would be banished after the next turn, at the end phase of the next turn. But all in all, this card's absolutely crazy. I'm so glad that I pulled it. It's like an $80 card. I would not suggest building this deck with this card in mind. This is just a card that I happened to pull, and I'm playing it. Realistically, I would say play like another kaiju, play a lava golem, play another normal summon, something like that, or play more traps. So yeah, there's all of the monsters finished off. So now let's talk about the spells and traps. First, we're running 3 El Shaddoll Fusion and 3 Shaddoll Fusion. These are pretty simple. I really like El Shaddoll Fusion because of a few reasons. One, it's basically just polymerization for your fusion monsters, which is very good. However, since it is a quick play spell, you can also set it and polymerize on your opponent's turn. And the reason that this is so good is you can chain in response to the opponent's card effect to special summon something, and then after the chain resolves, you special summon out a Winda. The Winda now locks them out of special summoning because they already special summoned when the chain resolves. They special summon a monster, you have Winda already on the field, and then that's their 1 special summon, so they can't do any more, which is very good and difficult for a lot of decks to deal with. So, absolutely insane card. You could also run the equip spell, the Nef Shaddoll Fusion. I actually hate that card. I don't think it's very worthwhile, and the reason for it is because most of the time, if you have the ability to even fusion summon, you probably don't need any specific attribute. I never really found that I needed, an earth attribute or a light attribute or anything like that. So yeah, most of the time it didn't really come up. Moving on to Shaddoll Fusion. This card's crazy. It just fusion summons from the deck. It does have a stipulation where your opponent has to control a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck specifically. So it's not the greatest. It's not like branded fusion or anything like that, but it is still an insane card. So all in all, definitely need at least 3 of the Shaddoll Fusion. El Shaddoll could be cut to 2 if you play a Nef Shaddoll, if you feel like it. But I really like the quick play version of this spell. Yep. And that's all of our fusion spells. We're just playing the 6. I don't feel like I I didn't feel like I needed any other fusion spells, so we're just playing the 1 Called By and 1 Foolish. Foolish also gets your combo started because you can send Squamata, which can then send Wendy, which can then special summon. So all in all, just standard cards. Called By is crazy. Definitely should be playing it. Moving on, we are going to talk about the traps now. As I mentioned, this is a trap version of the deck, so we're running quite a few of the traps. So yeah, we'll just quickly go through the card by card. So I did buy 3 of the Albaz structure deck, which means I got 3. There can be only 1. Actually, I have a 4th structure deck, which I might host a tournament to see who gets it. Anyway, yeah, there can be only 1. It's a good floodgate. I actually also think that it is a very fair floodgate, which is nice. There's a lot of ways to play around there can be only 1 versus something like Skill Drain where there's just kind of not sometimes. But all in all, a very insane card. Very, very good. And because of the fact that you tend to have a lot of face-down monsters, as well as there are a lot of different types within this deck. For example, there are at least 2 different types of the main deck monsters, but most of the different types of the fusions are not the same as the as the main deck monsters. This can actually be played around quite a bit. So there can be only 1. Absolutely crazy card. Another really, really solid card just for this current meta is Dimensional Barrier. A lot of people are fusion summoning, so if for some reason this card is about to get sniped, you can just kind of like flip it up and say fusions, and then all of a sudden no more DPE, no more Dragoon, no more branded fusion, no more nothing. Absolutely crazy. You can also flip it up on activation of a fusion spell and fizzle the card because they can't special summon a fusion monster, which is absolutely crazy. You can also flip it up like if they normal summon a Prank Kid and just call Link monsters, and then all of a sudden there's just random Prank Kid on their field. So really, really crazy card. Dimensional Barrier is a tech card that everyone should be thinking about in their side deck, not extra deck. So yeah, really crazy card. And then we're also playing 3 Lost Wind. Having some sort of targeted effect negation is very, very good. And yeah, instead of playing something like Effect Veiler, I'm playing Lost Wind. Just really crazy card. It's also like a battle trap as well. It's just like the cheaper version of Forbidden Droplets. Not as good. Definitely not as good. But a budget version. So if you're looking to play Yu-Gi-Oh! On a budget, play these cards. Moving on, we have 3 more 1-ofs. We are playing 1 Schism, just an insane card. I actually got this from this event. I didn't have it previously, but someone I was dueling had an extra. They gave it to me. Shout out to Neo. Absolutely crazy guy. Just really awesome dude. So he gave me the Schism. Immediately put it in the deck. It's incredibly useful. We are playing 1 Shaddoll Incarnation. This card is just like a Monster Reborn trap. Very, very good. Summons back in face down defense position. You can also banish it to flip one of your monsters, which is very nice. And then 1 Torrential Tribute. You could also play more of this card. I don't know if it's necessary though. It is nice because if you have like a Torrential Tribute set and you set one of your face down flip monsters, even if you torrential your own board, you tend to get advantage off of it anyway, so it's still a really, really solid card. In fact, I was also playing, well, I'll just show you in the side deck when we get to that. So let's move on to the extra deck real quick. All right, so for the extra deck, we are playing 3 Construct. It actually came up that I did need 3 of this. This card's really, really solid in a pure Shaddoll deck. Because it's just like your big boss monster. It attacks over basically anything that is special summoned, which is almost every single deck. In fact, every single deck basically at this point. So yeah, just really, really solid card. It's a light, which is also very nice. And yeah, just all in all, absolutely crazy card. I'm also playing Triple Winda. Now, in all honesty, I don't think I needed 3 of this card. But my extra deck space was loose. There weren't really a whole lot of cards that I could play, so I just put it to 3. You realistically only need 2, and you could probably include other fusions and Super Poly and stuff like that. As you've noticed, I wasn't playing Super Poly. I should have, but it's in my other deck, and I didn't want to like re-sleeve or anything. So yeah, all in all, El Shaddoll Winda is crazy, especially going first. You just like shut down your opponent sometimes. But with the prevalence of Effect Veiler, well, not Effect Veiler so much as Infinite Impermanence in particular, as well as Forbidden Droplets and other such cards that negate. This card isn't the greatest because there's probably an out that the opponent is playing. Even Forbidden Chalice is pretty heavily played, and all of those out this card. So it's not great, but it is pretty nice. Being able to just lock your opponent to one special summon is pretty crazy. Moving on, we are playing 2 App Cologne. This card is really, really solid. When it is summoned, you just negate a face-up card in the field forever. And then on top of that, if it is sent to the graveyard, you can search any of your Shaddoll spells or traps from the grave or the deck, and then add it to your hand and then discard one. This is normally what you will do to get a Schism, and then with Schism you can go into Shaddoll Winda or something along those lines. So all in all, very, very solid card. I never saw that I needed two, even 2 of these. But yeah, it was nice. It just requires 2 Shaddoll monsters with different attributes. So it's a little bit more difficult to summon, but not the hardest. We are also playing 2 Sheki Naga. This card is crazy. Sheki Naga is an Earth, which is why we are playing Mathematician. But basically, if a special summoned monster activates its effect, you can negate the effect, destroy the card, and then send a Shaddoll card from your hand to the grave. You do need the Shaddoll card in your hand in order to activate the effect. But all in all, 3,000 defense is really difficult for decks to deal with. In fact, one of my duels against Unchained, I literally just sat on a Sheki Naga for like 4 turns, and they just couldn't deal with it by themselves. So, all in all, a really, really solid card, and just a very solid Floodgate. Well, not really Floodgate, but, you know, you get the point. And then we are playing 1 more Shaddoll card in El Shaddoll Gristia. So yeah, all in all, very solid card as well. It can negate summons by pitching a card similar to Sheki Naga, which is interesting. It does require a fire, which is why I'm only running 1. It doesn't come up all that often that I end up summoning this guy. He's not the greatest. I'd rather just go into a Winda or Construct or a Sheki Naga on my turn 1. So yeah, this guy does miss a lot of timing and doesn't really have the ability to negate too much. Like if something is special summoned off of an effect of a spell or trap, you don't get to negate it. But if it's like a Link summon or a Synchro or an Exi or something like that, yeah, then you get to negate. So it's nice, but not too necessary. However, having the Earth attribute is also pretty nice. Moving on to some other cards in the extra deck, we are playing 1, the first Dark Lord. I'll explain that in a second. We are playing 1 Nightmare Phoenix. I should be playing more Link monsters, but in fact, I just don't have a whole lot. However, Phoenix is very nice to have. We are playing 1 Baguska, aka Plan B. We are playing a lot of level 4s, and with the inclusion of the Trick Clown, this makes sense to at least be playing, since I can just go into it and then just kind of like Floodgate, skill drain my opponent, which is nice. And then we are playing 1 Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. This is a card that I already had. You don't need it. It's just a level 7. We can technically summon it off of, I believe, 2 App Colognes, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, just kidding. That's a 6. I swear that there's 2 cards that are level 7. There is some way that I can summon this, but in all honesty, it doesn't really matter all that much. So I'm going to talk about the first Dark Lord with my side deck here. Because the first card in my side deck is Waking the Dragon. So, this card is what I use to summon out the first Dark Lord. The first Dark Lord is just a 4K big beat stick that is untargetable. That is the main reason why I have him in the extra deck. And Waking the Dragon's pretty nice, especially if they see that you are playing a whole bunch of spells and traps. They're going to side in some spell and trap card removal. You side in the Waking the Dragon, you set them, and then your opponent destroys them and you summon out this big boy. Or, you know, potentially another construct or something along those lines. But yeah, so all in all, a very solid card. Not the greatest, but pretty solid. As for the rest of my side deck, it is pretty lackluster, and the reason being is because most of the other cards that I would be putting in my side deck, things like Twin Twister, Hand Traps, Kaijus, etc., are, again, in my other deck. So, all in all, we are playing 3 other traps along with that. We are playing Necrofusion and Needle Sealing. So, 2 Necrofusion because I have 3, and 1 Needle Sealing because I only have the 1. Realistically, I would play more of this card if I had more, because this card is actually very, very good. If there are 4 or more monsters on the field, destroy all face-up monsters on the field. Really crazy card. Just because it's like, oh, if you're gonna go, you summon out a construct or a Winda on the opponent's turn, they negate it, they go into, 2 special summons or something like that. As long as you have another face down monster, you just nuke the field. Even if your Winda goes away, that's fine. You just grab back the fusion spell. Really, really solid. It doesn't destroy your own face down monsters as well, which is very nice. And technically, if Winda is not negated, you can keep the Winda on the field as well. So all in all, very solid, especially in such a combo heavy format. Just having like something that forces a negate option is very nice. It's not the best, but it is nice. I'm playing 3 other monsters in my side deck. The extra Wendy, just in case I feel like I'm going into a grind game. Having the extra Wendy is, in particular, really solid because it does give you that extra special. We are playing 1 Amano Iwato. This card is really good. It's just a normal summon, and then it turns off your opponent's monster effects. And like it just can't be responded to kind of thing. So very, very solid. And since you don't tend to need your normal summon, it's nice. You'd normally normal summon this and then like go into Winda and then just like return it to the hand and then end the turn basically, so that you get basically a free Winda. Not the greatest, so that's why it's only at 1. And then 1 other Kaiju. Again, I should be playing more in the side deck or in the main deck, but yeah, we have the 1 light Kaiju here. As for the spells and traps, I'm playing 3 Dark Hole. Dark Hole's crazy. It just nukes your opponent's field. I've had it come up a couple of times where nuking my own field is an issue, but it wasn't too bad, again, because if you have a fusion, it floats, basically, and a lot of your other cards also gain advantage, so it's not terrible. Realistically, this should just be triple Regeki. Regeki is way better. Moving on, we are playing 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Instant Fusion, and 1 Mystic Mine, which I never used. So, all in all, that is the deck. It's a fun deck, to be certain, but all in all, how did this deck perform? So, actually, I went undefeated in this casual event, so I went 2-1 in my first game against a relinquished deck. So again, this was a casual event. People weren't really tryharding or anything like that. But all in all, it was still a fun event. And this was my secondary deck. My other deck would have done way better. But all in all, it was still fun. I went 2-1 against relinquished. The second game, I lost solely because I bricked, as I mentioned. I drew a Lava Golem and 2 Beasts and then 2 Traps, which do absolutely nothing, and I didn't draw any fusions or anything that really got me into the game. I think I drew into one of my Falcos as well, which I was playing 2 at the time. I drew it, like, it wasn't the greatest. I just kept drawing terrible cards, and luckily against relinquish it took them a while because I didn't have any monsters, but eventually they just like OTK'd me, or not OTK'd, but they eventually had lethal, and I just kind of didn't really do anything. But all in all, without that being said, the other 2 games were very one-sided in my favor. So there's that. In the second match, I played against Heroes, if I'm not mistaken. And the Hero player, I let them go first. Because I was like, okay, this deck feels like it more so wants to go second. Even though I wanted to like set up trap cards and stuff like that, I don't think that I really want to go first nonetheless. And the reason being behind that was because with your Shaddoll Fusion in particular, it's kind of not doing anything unless your opponent has a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck. And I was like, well, I'm also playing things like Lava Golem, and sure, traps are nice going first, but none of my traps are anything too exceptional going first. And in fact, There Can Be Only One is a really crazy card, specifically going second, because your opponent will set up a board, you'll set this card, if you reveal Heavenly Prison or something along those lines, or just like your opponent doesn't deal with this, they proceed to battle or something along those lines, flip this card up, send their board away, you know, if it's all warriors, which this card definitely helped me out in Heroes. I just like sent their whole board away, and then they're just sitting there with like one monster on the field the entire time. They can't even mask change. They can't do anything. So all in all, game 3 was extremely close, and it basically came down to top decks, and I top decked better, and I ended up winning that one. So all in all, that one was the closest one. I think had I had a more structured side deck in particular, it would have gone better. Or if I was playing like at least a hand trap or something like that, it could have gone better as well. But all in all, I mean, I took the games, and I ended up winning that one. And then I played against Unchained, and game 1 was pretty much a slaughter for me. Just like There Can Be Only One, I had Gristia, I had Winda, just like if he special summoned, I'd negate it, and then you know, he could only do that once, so it didn't really matter. So yeah, all in all, way in my favor. And then on game 2, I was way behind, but given the fact that a lot of my cards float, I was inevitably able to get into a Sheki Naga, which eventually he dealt with. And then I set Ariel as well on like the following turn. So I set Ariel, and Ariel's effect allows you to on flip special summon back from the banished pile. And he actually banished the Sheki, and he didn't really have anything to get over the 3,000 defense of Sheki Naga. Here, I'll show you if it will. Sorry, the light is. There we go. Yeah, as you can see, it's got the 3,000 defense down there in the corner. He just didn't have anything that could deal with the 3,000 defense, and I literally just sat there for a couple of turns until eventually I outed his big 3k beat stick, and then I also just like attacked in with Sheki, and then I attacked in with another. I think it was Construct, and then at that point he was like, "Yeah, I guess you just win." So I 2-0'd him there, which was really, really solid, and really goes to show like this deck in particular is really resilient. Against meta strategies, it's not the strongest because it can just, you know, they have just as good, if not better, follow-up. But all in all, it's still a very fun strategy. Winda can just like win games by itself. And yeah, all in all, I had a lot of fun at the event. I was going to go to the competitive one that happened. So yeah, the casual event started at 12:30, and there was a 6:30 event that was a competitive one, but I got way too tired, so I didn't end up going to that one. But all in all, this deck performed really well, and I figured I'd showcase it and just kind of tell you guys about it. So that's going to be it for this episode. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much so appreciated, and if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.